Have you heard all the hype? Every astrologer ever is talking about how this month, March of 2025, is going to be off the charts when it comes to volatility, unpredictability, and once in a lifetime astrological events. Are you ready? I'm Erin, I'm Queen Bee Tarot. I'm an astrologer and I'm super excited to get into this for you. I'm going to break it down in a way that's not too complicated. I'm going to make it make sense. And the idea is I want to empower you, enlighten you, and uplift you in a way that helps you make your way through the muck and the craziness that's happening right now. I want to give you powerful information that is going to help you navigate these turbulent times in the best way possible so that you can align with your highest path and hopefully not drown in this deluge of, well, it's water, it's Pisces season. There's a lot of big emotions, there's a lot of things happening. Are you ready? Let's get in. So what we're looking at today is the first 2 weeks of March, and I'm breaking it down into two separate videos because I want to, number one, make it palatable, because if you give too much information, every human ever, eventually your eyes just kind of glaze over and it's a bit much. So we're just going to look at the first half of March. And what's happening is that we're closing out Pisces season, we're moving into Aries season, and March 21st-ish is always the beginning of spring. It's the spring equinox and it's the beginning of Aries season. And what makes this spring, this March, so incredibly interesting is that at the end of March, Neptune is going to be moving into Pisces for the first time in 156 years. Kind of a big freaking deal. And at the same time, Saturn is preparing to move into Aries as well. Did I say Aries? Neptune is moving into Aries. I'm so excited I'm tripping over my words, and a huge part of what's happening right now is that as we're wrapping up, or we're kind of in the middle of Pisces season, but a whole bunch of planets are wrapping up their journey through Pisces season. Every year, Pisces season, Pisces is a water sign, but also Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. And so as we as a collective move through Pisces season, every year it is associated with a lot of really big emotions. But because Pisces is associated with wisdom as well as intuition, because it's the last sign of the zodiac, personally and collectively, we kind of go through this this wrap-up phase. How do I explain it? It's kind of like this culmination of wisdom with this deluge of emotions that always comes with Pisces season, and the awareness that we're finishing up winter, at least in the northern hemisphere. There's always this sense of kind of wanting to tie up loose ends, wanting to wrap things up in a way that we can embody and integrate the wisdom that is associated with Pisces. But you know what else is associated with Pisces? Disillusionment and disassociation. Pisces is a water sign. It is represented by two fish, and depending on the logo that you're looking at, either they're going in a circle, kind of like a yin-yang, or they're swimming in opposite directions. And the idea is that fish are always moving. If you ever want to catch a fish, you actually have to be very, very still and very, very quiet because fish are easily spooked. And so during Pisces season, even though we do have this inherent desire to embody and accumulate and integrate the wisdom that we have gathered up through tricky experiences, right? Like, wisdom is never this thing where we just kind of pick it off a tree and it's like, oh, look at this wisdom, yay, okay. It's not that easy. Wisdom is the kind of thing that is always hard won. And we as humans learn through experience, but more importantly, we learn through failure. We learn through making mistakes. However, because Pisces is represented by fish that are either swimming or swimming in opposite directions, the idea is that when things feel too hard, when things feel too overwhelming, we tend to avoid confrontation. We avoid facing things when facing things makes us feel so deeply uncomfortable that we can't really stand to be in our bodies or in the moment. So it is very much so a personal journey, always is and always will be, even though we are existing in a collective. Aldous Huxley, one of the quotes from his book is that we live with, act on, and react to one another, but always and in all situations we are alone. But we cannot ignore the interconnectedness that we have as humans. You know, Martin Luther King actually said that we are collectively weaving a tapestry of reality together. And so what I want to say with that is that it is so easy in these times to feel overwhelmed. It is so easy to feel as though we as individuals are almost insignificant, right? It's very easy to feel as though we can't make a difference. But I want to say actually you can. Because just like we are all collectively weaving this tapestry of reality together, if you ever felt like you can't make a difference being one tiny person, think about the last time you tried to have a good sleep when there was a mosquito in the room, right? It's impossible. So a big part of this transition, as we are moving through Pisces season, as some very, very significant planets are also finishing their journey through Pisces, and we are personally and collectively getting ready to kind of dive bomb into Aries season, one of the biggest things that's coming through is a transition of approach. So while Neptune was in Pisces, basically for the last decade and a half, what we were personally and collectively experiencing was a collective and personal focus on the idealism behind being wise, behind perhaps even turning the other cheek. You know, Christianity is symbolized by the fish as well, and the planet Neptune represents idealism. Now, that idealism, like every single human on the planet, is going to have varying degrees of what they consider to be an ideal. And so Neptune does represent our personal ideals, but it also represents the collective approach to conflict resolution, the collective approach to living our best lives and activating these ideals, living these ideals, bringing these ideals into our lives, right? And so Neptune is so incredibly significant. Its transition into Aries at the end of the month is so incredibly significant because it also represents a collective shift away from turning the other cheek and into Aries energy. Aries is associated with the planet Mars, and it is named after the god of war. And so what that means is that every single one of us as a little individual is encouraged to be a little mosquito. The time for turning the other cheek when it comes to tolerating, how do I put this? Tolerating discomfort on a grand scale, okay? On a little scale, obviously as human beings, we have to tolerate a high level of discomfort every single day. We don't necessarily want to do a lot of the duties and responsibilities that we have, but that's life, right? Chop wood, carry water. No matter how you look at it, life is always going to be a balance between a little bit of good, a little bit of challenge, right? But the growing gap of inequality between the classes, economic disparity that's happening, you know, the poor keep getting poorer and the rich keep getting richer. And what we're stepping into is a shift away from trusting them to be wise, a shift away from the political leaders being ancient. And what we're shifting into is a new idealism around potentially fighting for your rights, potentially speaking up in a way that you are no longer willing to be ignored. And another big shift is into the advocacy and leadership of youth. Now, what I mean by that is, especially in North America, for example, you can look at the average political leader, and there's a ridiculous amount of people that are in their 70s and 80s running some major countries, right? But what's happening is certain people, like Luigi, for example, a very young individual who decided that he had enough and potentially, allegedly, may have done something to make a statement. Now, of course, everyone is innocent until proven guilty, and you never know if it was actually him. But the issue is that People are no longer willing to be silent. People are no longer willing to turn the other cheek, and people are going to have to do more to stand up for their rights, to advocate for their inherent rights as a human being, right? And so what we're looking at as the first 2 weeks of March get started, we are coming in off of a new moon in Pisces just at the end of February. The new moon in Pisces is the beginning of the moon cycle, which will have our first eclipse of the year. So we call a new moon cycle a 28-29 day period that begins with a new moon. And so every time we have a new moon, it's kind of like a chapter reset. What we're doing is we're stepping into a month-long chapter in which we are taking a fresh look at everything that new moon and that zodiac sign represents. So we just had a new moon in Pisces, which means that we personally and collectively are having a new look at what does Pisces energy mean for you. And you may be comparing in the past your efforts at being peaceful and wise and compassionate and patient. You might be looking at that in your life or in the world around you and going, okay, some of that worked, some of that was great, some of that very much so did not work. Some of that was a waste of time. Some of that led to being treated like a doormat, for example. Because that Pisces energy, even though it is embodying or idealizing the highest levels of wisdom and conduct, when we idealize that Piscean wisdom and conduct, what we're doing is we are assigning, whether it's real or not, we are assigning a high level of expectation. Pisces energy at its peak, at its highest expression, is wisdom. It is intuition. It is emotional maturity. But that is not always what we see. When we have political leaders, for example, I'm not getting political, but I'm just trying to help you understand, when we have political leaders that in ancient times we would respect our elders. It has always been the case. You know, people, humans that have been on the planet for many decades, the ideal is that they have a lot of wisdom to bring to the table. The expectation is that their conduct, their behavior, their leadership is going to represent and exemplify that wisdom that we would typically associate with being an elder. But the problem is that in modern times, even though we have leaders that are older, that they're elders, for example, what we're not seeing is the ideals being activated. What we are not seeing is that highest level of wisdom, that highest level of selflessness. Pisces represents selflessness that comes with wisdom and age and grace. Because the older you get, the more you realize that true strength is gentle until you have to fight. And then you go back to being gentle. But the leadership that we are seeing is not gentle. It is not graceful. It is not compassionate. It is not kind. And so what started off as a little bit of a political disparity in a certain country is now spilling over into what looks like the beginnings of World War III, right? And so it's not so much about politics as it is about idealism, expectations, and then comparing expectations to reality. So personally and collectively, as we are coming into March off of the tail end of a new moon in Pisces, we are personally and collectively taking a new look at what Pisces represents and then comparing our ideals to reality. And in that comparison, it's very rarely going to be black and white. It's going to be a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and a bit of a gray area in the middle, right? And to complicate things, what's also happening at the very beginning of March is that Mercury, which represents what we think, what we believe, how we perceive the world around us, Mercury joins Neptune and also, the North Node, which is karmic destiny, at the final degrees of Pisces. This is kind of a now or never energy. This is the energy of it is no longer rehearsal. This is real life. This is a turning point for humanity. And I don't mean to overblow this or make this any bigger than it is. I mean, if I was really speaking truthfully, I would be a lot louder. I'm trying to actually tone it down for the purpose of palatability, right? But this is a turning point for humanity. Make no beans about it. This is a turning point for humanity. And so personally and collectively, we are being invited to compare dreams versus reality when it comes to, are we actualizing selflessness? Are we actually being compassionate, kind, and wise in all that we think, do, and say, and all the ways that we interact with other human beings, right? This is kind of like the ultimate karmic test of humanity. So I would strongly encourage you to everybody's going to have a different experience. Everybody who might potentially be watching this video, like we're all living in different places of the world, but we are all affected by what is going on. Now is the time to speak up. Now is the time to stand up, because democracy dies in darkness. Freedom dies with apathy and silence. So we are all definitely being pushed into stepping outside of our comfort zone. We are all being pushed into taking a stand and speaking up for whatever it is that we hold as ideals in our lives. And so as we enter March, one of the biggest things that we experienced in February was this deluge of events. It was like a million years, not a million years, but like it was a whole year packed into a month, right? Like February was profoundly overwhelming. So much happened, and it was like boom, 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 thing after thing after thing. If you are feeling overwhelmed, you're not alone. If you're really having to pick and choose how much you tiptoe into or engage with reality because of the sheer overwhelming energy out there, you're not alone. And so it's really important as we step into this transition period. We are stepping into eclipse season. It is going to be almost 2 months as far as how long this energy of transformation has a huge hold over us. March is going to be especially intense. April's kind of going to be the after effects. And by the time we get into May and June, things are going to chill out a bit. And then we have more eclipses in September, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So as we kind of come into March, it's going to be really important for each one of us to recognize our own limits. We are most useful to ourselves, to the world around us, to our families, to our friends, whatever. We are most useful when we take good care of ourselves. And the eclipse cycles that we had for the last year and a half, 18 months, were all on the axis of Aries and Libra, really highlighting that difference between, okay, I can take care of me or I can take care of we, but I can't do both at the same time, or can I? And that was the big question over the last year and a half, is how can I find that Goldilocks zone, that happy medium between looking after my own needs, filling my own cup, and yet at the same time, having that healthy balance where I'm also taking good care of the people around me, or making sure not to do harm to the people around me or in the world, right? And so that was the biggest thing. Now that we're stepping into a new eclipse season that is on the axis of Virgo and Pisces, this is all about how can I be the healthiest individual I can, and how can I exemplify and demonstrate the wisdom that I have, the compassion that I have, but also at the same time, measured doses of selflessness. If you step into this deluge of current events too much right now, you could be overwhelmed, you could hit your limit very fast. And sometimes when we do that, when we push too hard or too fast, we end up having this rubber band effect where we pull back in the opposite direction. So I really do want to encourage everybody to look after your mental health, limit how much you read or watch the news. Limit how much you engage with social media. Little measured doses. And then when you've kind of hit your limit, whoop, turn it off, take a break, go take a walk, breathe the air, listen to the birds, right? It is going to be that back and forth. And what's really interesting is that now that we're stepping into a year and a half of eclipses that are going to be shifting through this Virgo Pisces axis, Virgo is all about being mentally healthy and physically healthy. And Pisces is all about being emotionally and spiritually healthy. And both of these two zodiac signs that are kind of dominating the karmic energy for the next year and a half, both of these zodiac signs love spending time by themselves. And that's going to be a huge tip to share with you guys as far as how to survive, at least over the next year and a half. Take lots of space. Definitely take lots of space. Take lots of space to yourself. Shut out the world. Go on social media breaks. Go on breaks from the news. Recognize your limit and respect it as much as you can, because it's going to be a lot. And there's a lot of change happening. So yeah, we're at the beginning of March here, and we're dealing with a deluge of information. We're dealing with a lot of overwhelming emotions. We're dealing with a sense that there's a lot happening really, really, really fast, and that energy is going to continue. So look after your mental health, take really good care of yourselves. It is going to be a challenge to stay grounded and clear, but I really want to emphasize this. Work hard at clear communication. If within the context of any conversations or connections that you have, personal or professional, it's going to be really, really, really important and vital to work hard at clear communication. The Neptune, Mercury, Pisces energy is very, very foggy. It's very, very overwhelming. And so finding clarity, finding truth is going to take a lot more effort than we're used to, but it is absolutely worth the effort. March 1st, Venus goes retrograde. Now, I did talk about this in one of my other videos. Venus is going to spend basically the first half of the year up until I think at the end of April. Venus moved through Pisces. Venus moved into Aries. Venus is in Aries right now. And March 1st, Venus goes retrograde. So it is going to go back through Aries. It's going to go back into Pisces March 27th. And it's going to be retrograde until April 12th, where it has to come back through Pisces and back into Aries. Venus moving in and out of Aries and Pisces is helping us find that sweet spot of being selfless and compassionate when appropriate, and being fierce when appropriate. And either one by themselves is a bit extreme, but when we can find that sweet spot, that Goldilocks zone, that's where the magic happens, right? The other thing happening March 2nd is that Mercury joins Neptune, Sun square Jupiter. First couple of days of March are going to feel really overwhelming, really confusing. Again, within the context of any relationship you have, personal or professional, there's going to be a lot of fog. There's going to be a lot of miscommunications. And that's going to be amplified because March 15th, Mercury goes retrograde. So Venus and Mercury both going retrograde in March is going to cause a lot of hiccups, a lot of confusion, a lot of missed connections, and it's going to also kind of expose any cracks within the relationships that we have. This is why it is so important to work hard at clear communication, because everybody's going to be feeling emotional, everybody's going to be feeling overwhelmed, and it's going to be really, really important to take things one step at a time. Try not to get completely swept away with what's happening. It's going to be very easy to feel swept away. But it's going to be really important to have both feet on the ground as much as possible. March 3rd, Mercury moves into Aries. So I was saying Mercury goes retrograde March 15th, but before it does, it's going to spend a couple weeks in Aries. Mercury is the messenger. Mercury is all about what we think, what we communicate, how we see the world around us, how we perceive the world around us, because Mercury influences not only like when we look at the world, that's one thing, but our brains go, oh, this is this. Our brains categorize what we see. Our brains label things. And right? And so Mercury really influences how we see, how we perceive, how we categorize the things that are happening. March 2nd, when Mercury joins Neptune, it is at the end of Pisces. So there's going to be a sense of urgency when it comes to actualizing or verbalizing our ideals. But what happens is when March 3rd, Mercury moves into Aries, it's like time for talking is over. Now let's take action. So when the planet of communication moves through Aries, Aries is the god of war. It's like that quote, them's fighting words. The words that come out of our mouths are more likely to be harsh. The words that come out are going to have this air or this energy of impatience. And our communications as a whole are going to be much more direct, much more poignant, because Aries is like a laser beam. Talk is cheap, getting right to the point. Maybe even the words we're using being perceived as fighting words. It is also sometimes associated with declarations of war. And so while Mercury is moving through Aries for the next few weeks, we might see more announcements around conflict, the nature of conflict, declarations of conflict being official. There's a lot of ways it could come through. It's going to be interesting, to say the least. And then March 5th, Mercury forms a supportive angle to Pluto, really reminding us that it pays off to be direct. If you don't understand something, don't go running off on an assumption. Ask for clarity, dig deep, see what you can do to get to the bottom of things, to find out the truth about things. And it's going to take a lot of sifting through BS to get to the truth, but it really, really, really is worth it. Now, that first week of March is kind of like the build-up. And then what happens is the second week of March is the release. And the reason I say that is because March 13th, we have a full moon lunar eclipse. The sun is in Pisces, the moon is in Virgo, and it's going to be really, really intense. So the build up, this is the new moon in Pisces we just had a couple days ago. And what we have is a representation of this conceptual understanding really starting to formulate. And a lot of what we're seeing and hearing and experiencing is either in our heads, in our hearts. It's a lot of this conceptual understanding of, oh my gosh, this is going on. And then the question of, how is that going to affect me? Whereas then we move into, when we have the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo, it means the moon is in Virgo, but the sun is in Pisces. Here, see this sailboat shape? Talk is cheap, it's time for action. That is what we're building up to in the middle of March. A sense that we have spent long enough gathering supplies. We've spent long enough gathering information. Now it's time to set sail. And one of the analogies that I thought of is like how so many times in our lives, nothing really prepares you for how something is going to play out. You know, for those of us who have had children, for example, the first time that you bring a child into the world, you can hear things from a million different people about what parenting or what birth might be like. Nothing prepares you for being in that moment. No matter how many documentaries you read, no matter how many people you talk to, nothing really prepares you for being in that moment and experiencing it in real life. Nothing really prepares you for the unique individual experience you're going to have, because that's what life is. It's unique. It's different depending on the individual experiencing it, right? So all of this prep, all of this buildup is definitely going to lead to a huge, huge peak and a huge change in direction. This sailboat shape, to use an analogy, there is momentum coming. There is change coming. And even though it feels like things have already been changing at light speed, that was only the beginning. Buckle up, put your helmets on. March 8th, the sun forms a supportive angle to Mars. This is where we start to see momentum building. This is where we start to see action happening. And the moon joins Mars as well. The action happening by March 8th is more likely to be guided and triggered by subconscious urges. This is where it is so important to practice. It's so important to do the work first, because when you get in the moment, logic kind of kicks out the window and autopilot kicks in. And like I used to be a medic. No amount of first aid training in the world prepares you for the adrenaline of being in the moment. All your training goes out the window. If you don't have things locked in as far as autopilot, if you haven't addressed your subconscious, if you haven't addressed your deep emotions, if you haven't clarified your own intentions, by March 8th, momentum is happening. The train is out the station. So I just want to give you guys a heads up. March 11th, Mercury joins Venus in Aries. Venus will be retrograde, but Mercury won't be yet. So Mercury joins Venus in Aries March 11th. That is also an indication of like, it's freaking go time. But there's also a sense of, I want to move forwards. I want to advocate. I want to speak up. I want to actualize something. But in a lot of ways, it feels like we have to go backwards to go forward. So it's going to be a very confusing, very overwhelming time. And March 12th, the sun joins Saturn at the final degrees of Pisces, which means this is another indicator that one of the ways in which we might find ourselves either being stuck or tripping over ourselves or repeating something that we didn't really want to repeat is because when the sun joins Saturn at the end of Pisces, it's an indication of subconscious programming taking over. It's an indication of that autopilot taking over. And no matter what you were idealizing, no matter what you were imagining, sometimes in the moment you just kind of can't help it. And you find yourself repeating behavior or repeating patterns that you really didn't want to. So in the first week of March, I would strongly encourage everybody to really kind of practice conversations, practice things before you get into the moment, plan ahead, know your weaknesses, know your triggers, but also keep your eyes on the prize as far as what your ideals are, what you're hoping for, what your ideal outcome is, and be willing to adapt in the moment. When the sun joins Saturn, that's another indicator of being stuck in a rut or going back to old ways of doing things, simply because sometimes it's hard to trust ourselves in new situations. Sometimes it's hard to utilize a new way of approaching challenges when it feels unfamiliar, when it feels untested. But as we move into Aries season by the third week of March, this is where we are definitely personally and collectively going to be stepping into uncharted territory, and we're going to be encouraged to be spontaneous, be proactive, be vocal, be active, step outside of your comfort zone, because that's where the magic happens. Yeah. And full moon lunar eclipse on March 13th. So I did write down March 13th, March 14th. If you're in the Pacific time zone, it's going to be around 11 o'clock p.m. on March 13th. If you're on the Eastern time zone of North America, it's going to be in the wee hours of the morning on March 14th. So either way, that's when the full moon lunar eclipse is happening. And you might also find that anything happening for you around March 13th may have parallels, echoes, or strings attached to whatever was happening for you around September 17th of last year, because there was a very similar eclipse that actually started off the Virgo Pisces axis activation. So yeah, and then March 15th, Mercury retrograde. So like I said, this is just the first half of March. And just to recap, what's really, really important is to remember it's kind of like having thrown the rules out the window. If you haven't seen my 2025 horoscopes, I would strongly recommend you go check those out, because I do get into an overview of the entire year. If you want to skip ahead to the punchline, if you if you want to get a head start on looking at, oh my God, what are the next few months going to hold, definitely go check out that video, because I do a pretty in-depth look at how the year is going to look, and I do get into it for all 12 zodiac signs. So you can go check out a horoscope, a personalized horoscope for that as well. And just to let you guys know, on my website, www.queenbeetarot.com, I have online booking. You can be anywhere in the world. If you want a tarot reading that is personalized, if you want an astrology consultation that is personalized just for you, go visit my website, book yourself a reading, and I would be really stoked to offer you personalized guidance for the year ahead. Yeah, okay, awesome. So that is my scoop for the collective. I will be back in 2 weeks to give you the next half of March and what to expect. But yeah, for now, stick around, check out your horoscope. I have individual horoscopes for all 12 signs coming up next. There are timestamps and chapters below if you want to scroll ahead to your personal horoscope, and I will see you in a quick minute at your reading. Mwah. All right, welcome back, my friends. We're going to get into the individual detailed horoscopes for all 12 zodiac signs, starting, of course, with Aries, the first sign of the zodiac. So Aries sun and Aries rising, welcome to your horoscopes. This is kind of like a big freaking deal for you guys, because with this massive planetary shift into your sign, odds are you are probably already feeling overwhelmed. Now, if you have a birthday at the very beginning of Aries, that would be right around March 21st or up to the end of March, you're probably going to be feeling this much more strongly. Now, if you are an Aries that was born in April, then you might not be feeling this quite strongly yet, but you will towards the end of the year. So everybody's going to have a slightly different experience. And then, of course, if you're an Aries rising, depending on the degree of your rising sign, if your rising sign is at the beginning of Aries, like I said, for the beginning of Aries babies, you're going to feel this really strongly right now. Whereas if your rising sign is kind of towards the end of Aries, you might not feel this, the strong effect for the next couple of months at least. Anyway, here's your heads up. Basically, like at the end of the month, Neptune moves into your sign. And so the other thing that's happening is that Saturn's going to be moving into your sign very soon as well. And those two planets are very strong, very influential. As a result, you are feeling more serious. You may even be stepping into roles of responsibility in your life, or it may just be a feeling of seriousness and responsibility. You may also, in some ways, feel responsible for other people. Now, whether or not that is actually factually true is important for you to be able to differentiate. Because when Neptune moves through your sign, there is a high likelihood of this ethereal almost sense that you need to save the day, or you need to be a superhero, or you need to take action. And you may have to kind of pause for a second and be like, actually, is that true? So if you're starting to have this increasing sense of duty and responsibility, or an increasing sense of feeling responsible in ways that may not actually match up to your reality, that would be why, is just because you have two major planets about to move into your sign. But the bonus coming is that if you want to present yourself as someone who aligns with their ideals, their dreams, their highest aspirations, that's exactly what people are going to see in you. If you want to present yourself as someone who is serious, responsible, detail or duty oriented, someone to trust, someone to get a raise or a promotion, that's what people are going to see in you. So just remember, with great power comes great responsibility. You guys are setting up for at least 2 years, if not more, of really stepping into a solid magical time in your lives. So yeah, there's a lot happening. The Pisces new moon that we just had a few days ago happened in your 12th house. And so what you're probably coming off of in the last few days is this feeling of fog, this feeling of maybe questioning your duties, questioning your responsibilities, questioning what people see in you. And I'm getting my timer ready because I know myself and I know that I have a tendency to ramble and I want to set a timer so I don't go too crazy. Okay, that's the other part of it, is that when Saturn moves into our zodiac sign, the opportunity lies not only to step into a higher level of responsibility or step into some sort of era in your life in which things really start to congeal and solidify in a beautiful, beautiful way. But the other part of that is you need to know your triggers. You need to know your weaknesses. You need to know this all-encompassing self-assessment, self-knowledge of, I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses, and I'm going to work with them instead of against them. So working with your strengths, setting up any little, just like me with my timer, if you know something is a weakness, compensate. Give yourself those, what do they call it in golf? Like a handicap is basically like set yourself up for success instead of going la 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 la, it's not a problem, and then tripping over the problem, right? And these are all signs of maturity and wisdom. That's what you're stepping into, is a new era in your life of maturity and wisdom. And as a result, Descartes said to know thyself is divine. In order to achieve your highest goals, aspirations, and ideals, know yourself. That's the key. Don't try to pretend to be anybody that you're not. Be yourself. That's what the world needs. And if you're laughing right now, it just means you haven't found your niche. Because if you don't see that the world needs you yet, you just haven't found your niche. Maybe you haven't found your people. But I assure you, you are a beautiful, amazing soul and the world needs you. So the Pisces new moon that we just had brought with it some fog, but that is very quickly going to lift as we move into the first 2 weeks of March. Now, one of the things that you're kind of struggling with is a sense that there is some sort of invisible block, some sort of invisible obstacle. You may feel as though you're tripping over something, but it's kind of like tripping over something in the dark. You might not quite see it, or you might not quite understand it, or even have any idea what to do about it. So this is where it's super, super important to do that deep dive, do that honest self-assessment. Go get therapy if that's what you need. But if you can figure out what your shadows are, if you can figure out what your blocks are, then you are going to empower yourself to seriously actualize your dreams and really, really, really step into a new era in your life. Basically, what's coming through is that there are little ways in which every single human is stuck. And that stuckness is in your 12th house right now, represented by the Sun and Saturn joining in Pisces. The 12th house is kind of that which is hidden. It can be our subconscious fears. It can be anxiety or depression that hasn't quite been addressed. It can be a fear of a meaningless life. It can be a fear of struggle, right? There's a lot of different ways in which we potentially self-sabotage, and that's what's being represented right now. So if you can just recognize the ways in which you self-sabotage, you're going to be good to go. And, for some people it might be small, for some people it might be a big deal, but I promise you, if you address issues of self-sabotage in your life, you're going to be rocking for the rest of the year, for a couple of years. Now, Venus is currently in your sign, and Mercury is going to move in your sign into Aries in the next couple of days. And what's happening is that to have both of those inner planets, they're the closest to the sun. They're known as luminaries because they represent a huge part of what lights us up. It's our relationships, it's our abundance, it is the connections, it's the conversations, it's the fun parts of life, right? And for both Venus and Mercury to be in Aries is really kind of bringing that self-love home for you guys. It's helping you to be more confident. It's helping you to work through any of those tricky pieces of self-sabotage, especially if it's been really hard to look at those things in the past. Right now is the perfect time, because for whatever reason, those walls are down a little bit. You're feeling a little bit softer. You're feeling a little bit more compassionate towards yourself. And maybe what's new is feeling ready to make those changes or ready to face those things. Either way, this is a time of potent, incredible potential. So be brave. And what we're working up to is the full moon in Virgo. It's a lunar eclipse on March 13th. And when that happens, it's going to be activating your 6th house. So the big theme right now is your identity in the middle of mental and physical health versus spiritual and emotional health. And so the more that you can get a healthy level of selfish, take the time, take therapy, do whatever you need to do to love yourself, have confidence in yourself, and know yourself. Know yourself deeply. Because once you have that wisdom that is anchored in reality, nothing anybody says is going to shock you. You'll be like, yeah, I already know that about myself. So, right? The only time we're really, really vulnerable to the opinions of other people is when we're unwilling or unable to recognize what they're picking up on or what needs to change. When you know yourself, it's an unshakable confidence that nobody can touch. So if you're looking for that confidence, turn inwards to love yourself. And that journey is going to peak on or around March 13th with the full moon in Virgo, activating your 6th house of physical health, activating your 6th house of daily routines and work. So whatever it is that you've been working on and continue to work on within the ethereal and conceptual and astral realms, it is going to solidify in your reality in a very, very healthy, sustainable way by the middle of March. So I hope you guys have an amazing 2 weeks. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure to like and follow so you're kept up to date with all my videos and updates. And I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Mwah! Bye. All right, my Taurus friends, Taurus Sun and Taurus Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. We're just coming off of a Pisces new moon, a new beginning for personally and collectively for the highest aspirations and ideals that we hold. And this Pisces new moon that happened for you guys was activating your 11th house. And one of the biggest themes that's been happening for you guys is seeking a place where you feel like you belong. And it's about your personal desire to do something meaningful, either personally or professionally, and wanting to feel meaningful connections between yourself and other human beings out there into the world. There's a big focus for you guys lately on stepping away from the circles that you used to run in and seeking new connections, seeking nourishing connections. And empty, shallow connections are just totally repelling you right now. It's not where you want to be. So the Pisces new moon that just happened a few days ago is really activating your 11th house. But one of the big things that's coming up in the days after the new moon is realizing where and when you might be stuck in old patterns of behavior, old systems or situations in which you used to belong, but you don't really feel it anymore, but you don't really know where else to go. And so that feeling of feeling maybe out of place or still seeking solid ground is finally coming together for you guys this month. It's been a long time coming. And as Mercury and Venus move out of Pisces, you know, Venus is already into Aries. Mercury follows, moving into Aries in the next couple of days. And so there's this new, this new like chutzpah, this new life force or energy that's starting to come out of you. And you might feel like you're starting to kind of wake up for the first time in a while. And this is going to keep rolling and end up being a momentum that follows you and nourishes you for the rest of the year and months after that. So as all these planets start to kind of move into Aries, and there's this big Aries activation this year, that is your 12th house. And so what's going to be coming through for you guys is everything that you are seeing and interacting with, observing and doing in your day-to-day life, especially when it comes to themes of meaningful connections, meaningful work, and all that good stuff, feeling like you belong or wanting to belong. What's going to happen as we move into this year, and especially in this month, is you are going to be processing what has happened. You're going to be processing, how do you feel about it? What do you think about it? And does your reality match with your ideals? Do the connections that you're making reinforce positive mental health? Or are the connections and situations that you're experiencing, are they triggering you in a way that is making it really clear that some things still need to be addressed? So if you find that you're kind of on this roller coaster of feeling like all is right in the world, and then something triggers you and you're like, WTF, blah, 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 blah. That is just an indication that your work is progressing. It does not mean that you are regressing. When things get stirred up in our journey of self-discovery, in our journey of mental health, or whatever it is, that roller coaster feeling of being like, oh, I'm good. Oh, wait, shit. That's part of life. Healing is never perfectly linear. Life is never perfectly linear. And so it's going to be really important that you just notice where you are disappointed based on expectations that are never going to match up with reality. If your expectation is that healing is going to be perfectly, ooh, I'm doing good and good and good, you're bound to be disappointed, right? And I just wanted to tell you that because as we start to really get into the meat of this month, you are going to find that certain things come up in your subconscious, in your heart, in your mind, in your psyche, that make you aware of more work that needs to be done. And don't let that discourage you. If you're realizing that more work needs to be done, try and balance that with, well, thank God I finished the last set of things. There is accomplishments. There are many things and lots of progress to be proud of. So the fact that you're discovering new things that you need to work on, or old things that haven't been addressed, that's okay. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong. It doesn't mean you're moving backwards. It actually means that you are moving forwards. But you might also find that you need a little bit more time to yourself. You might be stepping back from this new extra social vibe and kind of crawling back into your blanket fort and going, ooh, right? And that's life. Like I said, it's going to be ups and downs. It's going to be feeling social and then feeling quiet. And as long as you give yourself permission to be a little bit different, or have that wider range of energy, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable. The ways in which you're going to feel deeply uncomfortable are largely going to be associated with unrealistic expectations that you hold for yourself. And odds are the expectations that you hold for yourself are far higher than anybody else's expectations for you. So just be mindful of that. Now on March 13th, March 14th, depending on your time zone, but it's the overnight between March 13th and March 14th, we're having a full moon lunar eclipse. It is the first eclipse of the year. It's going to be epic, but it is also going to bring with it a sense that momentum is finally happening. And for you guys, it's going to activate your 5th house, which is one of the most beautiful parts of anybody's astrological chart. And that is because the 5th house is all about creativity, pleasure, joy, and fun. So even though it feels like you guys have really been through the ringer, and even though you may feel like you're kind of on a roller coaster these days, this full moon lunar eclipse that's going to be rocking a lot of other zodiac signs is actually going to be positive, creative, and constructive for you guys. So definitely be patient with yourselves. Be mindful of any unrealistic expectations you have for yourself or for other people. And as much as you can, whenever you can, try and have fun. Try and laugh. Right? Oh man, sometimes it's a choice between laughing and crying. So, yay. Anyway, mwah, good luck. Thank you so much for being here. If you ever want to hire me for a private reading, you can do so from anywhere in the world. And make sure to like and subscribe so that you're kept up to date with all my future videos. I'm going to be coming out with another one in a very short 2 weeks. I'll see you then. Take care. Bye. Gemini Sun and Gemini Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. March is going to be epic. Holy freaking moly. As we're wrapping up Pisces season, you know, we just had a new moon in Pisces a few days ago. We are still in the middle of Pisces season. And so all of this Pisces energy for you guys is your 10th house. The 10th house is like the top of your astrological chart. It is that desire and that goal to have a destination in mind. And because Pisces season is these fishies that don't necessarily have a destination in mind, you may be kind of treading this fine line between feeling like you're making progress and feeling like you're slipping, or feeling like you're finally figuring out the rules of the game or how to deal with stuff. And then as soon as you figure it out, the rules change. So just like I was saying for Taurus, there's probably going to be a roller coaster energy for you guys over the next little bit. But what's really important is to, when it comes to goals and when it comes to where you would like to be, represented by the 10th house energy, and when it comes to that, it's really important to lock into the essence of what it is that you want and be willing to adjust your course according to the metaphorical road conditions ahead, right? If we are locked in that we want to accomplish this goal and we want to take this step to get there, what happens if you get 2-3 steps in and the stairway disappears? You have to be willing to climb down a rope and use a ladder and swim across a river. And I'm using metaphors here, right? But this is where it's really important to kind of have your eyes on the prize, but be willing to adjust course accordingly. And if you're willing to adjust course accordingly, that is going to be making the absolute most of this Pisces energy. Not much is going to be straightforward. And so it's really important that we, as much as we can, are adaptable and amenable to the conditions at hand. You know, we cannot change the weather, but we can adjust our sails accordingly and get to where we need to go. So lots of metaphors for you guys, but that's the idea. You guys are locking into some serious goals, and this time every year for you guys is going to be very goal oriented, because Pisces season will always activate your 10th house. And as we move into the middle of March, you know, Venus is already in Aries, Mercury is about to move into Aries, and then at the end of the month, Neptune is moving into Aries. There's a lot happening. Sun's moving into Aries. That's going to activate your 11th house. And this is actually going to be a welcome relief to you guys, because this 10th house energy of Pisces season is very like, this is where I want to be, and this goal or this destination or this finish line is so important, and it's hard to, you know, let go of that, the ways in which we kind of lock into what it is that we want. Whereas when we move into Aries season, it's going to activate your 11th house. And the way that this is going to be a good change is because it's going to become very, very clear to you what it is about that goal that's so important. Is not necessarily about that particular car that we want to buy. It's that cars represent freedom, right? It's not so much about that particular house that we want to get into. It's that the house represents stability and safety. It represents sanctuary. And so when your 11th house gets activated as we move into Aries season and we have all these planets moving into Aries, see what you can do to get to the core, the essence of what it is that you're hoping for. It's that stability. It's that freedom. It's that sanctuary, right? And as long as you keep that as your end goal, then the path to get there will become much more clear. So the less rigid you can be in your expectations of yourself or other people or life in general, the more adaptable and the more exciting the journey will be. Yeah. And then on March 13th, March 14th, depending on your time zone, we have a full moon in Virgo, a full moon lunar eclipse. Now, a lunar eclipse is always going to be this intense peak that leads to closure, completion, or resolution. And for you guys, it is going to be activating your 4th house of family and home. And so the biggest theme for you guys is going to be actualizing your healthy ideals when it comes to the literal home you live in or the nourishing relationships that you have in your life, because the 4th house is your heart as well. And that's exactly it. You know, they always say home is where the heart is. It's not so much about the particular house as it is who lives there, what energy fills that house, and do you feel safe? Is it a sanctuary away from the world? And so that's the biggest thing that's happening for you guys, is moving away from this black and white description of what your end goals are and moving into the feeling and the essence of what your goals are. So I hope that helps. I hope you enjoyed your horoscopes. Thank you so much for being here. Good luck out there. And make sure to like and subscribe so you're kept up to date with all my videos. I will see you in the next one. Mwah! Bye. Cancer Sun and Cancer Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. March is going to be a doozy. Let me just say, holy moly. You guys always, because you're a water sign, and Pisces season that we're in the middle of is also a water sign, you guys are definitely in your zone right now. If things feel easier and smoother and gentler for you guys right now, I would strongly encourage you to get as much as you can done, knowing that you might feel too overwhelmed to do certain tricky or exhausting things in the couple weeks to come. The intensity in March is going to be palpable. And so as we kind of wrap up Pisces season, you know, we just had a new moon in Pisces. Pisces season activates your 9th house. And the 9th house is where we imagine and conceptualize possibilities. It can be a formal or informal education. It can be philosophy or philosophical conversations. It can be the pursuit of spirituality, metaphysical information, or simply just seeking understanding, seeking newness and nourishment. So during Pisces season, you guys are typically inspired. You guys are typically kind of in a really good place, and maybe you're trying new things. Maybe you're in an energy of exploration and experimentation. It's good. It's good. So as much as you can, fill your cup. Fill your cup before things get tricky and spicy. Because when, like, Venus is already in Aries, but Mercury is about to move into Aries, then we get into Aries season, then Neptune moves into Aries. It's going to be like, woo, full on. And Aries season isn't really your jam. And so when, excuse me, how do I put this? When we really start getting into like the meat of March and, you know, all this Aries energy starts to kick in, it's going to be activating your 10th house. And in the 10th house of astrology, it's kind of the top. It's like due north on a compass. You may be seeking direction and seeking certainty, and you might feel profoundly disappointed that that certainty or that direction seems to be elusive. You might feel profoundly challenged when it comes to maintaining hope, maintaining your vision for the future. All this positive, optimistic energy that's infusing your lives right now is going to feel like a distant memory in just a couple short weeks. And so what's going to be really important is for you to kind of pack that hope into your heart, put it in your back pocket and take it with you. You know what I mean? Find ways to insulate yourself from what may feel harsh or restrictive or overwhelming for the next couple of weeks. And so I just want to make you aware that for the majority of March, you may feel restricted, overwhelmed. You may feel like it's harder and harder for you to find hope, for example. And if you didn't catch it in the beginning of the video, what I was talking about is how incredibly important it is to prioritize our mental health over the next little bit. For a lot of us, that's going to mean going on a social media break, picking and choosing when we choose to read the news, limiting our interactions with toxic people, toxic energies, anything at all that's going to throw you off center, because it really feels as though you guys can't afford that kind of disruption. And fact of the matter is, you know, things are kind of hitting the fan, right? And because you guys have such incredibly soft hearts, you're going to hit compassion overload. You're going to hit your limit when it comes to how much your delicate, beautiful hearts can take. So please protect your peace. Please don't feel the least bit bad for restricting who can access you, restricting how much you access the world. You know, do whatever you need to do to create that bubble, that buffer zone, because you're going to be really grateful that you did. Put your mental health needs first and don't feel the least bit guilty about it. Then what we're leading up to is a full moon lunar eclipse on March 13th. March 13th, 14th, that overnight period. Now, the full moon lunar eclipse is activating Virgo. Cancers and Virgos get along pretty well. I really do foresee this full moon lunar eclipse being relatively positive, encouraging, or uplifting for you. And it's going to reinforce how much of a healthy choice it is to be a hermit. It's going to reinforce how much of a healthy choice it is to be picky about who gets to be VIP in your life. And it is going to also provide opportunities for you to talk things out in safe and trusted company. So yeah, it's a bit of a hold on your hats, put on your helmet, wrap yourself in bubble tape kind of horoscope this time. But my goal is to enlighten, uplift, and empower. And so I hope that this horoscope has been helpful. Yeah, it's good to prepare yourself. And one thing that I heard once, different context, but it's useful, is have a self-care kit. Have a little box, a big box if you need it, a self-care kit. Whether it has gummies, snacks, pictures of people you love, coloring books, you know, stuffies for cuddling, a fold-up blanket for it, I don't know. Come up with a comfort kit for yourself, especially before March gets going, because right now you're feeling relatively healthy, inspired, positive, you know, despite what's happening. Trust me, the state of mind that you're in right now is going to be light years better than how you may be feeling over the next couple of weeks. So come up with a self-care kit. Feel free to add to it as time goes. And then if you feel stressed out or overwhelmed, shut out the world. Take care of yourself. Do whatever you got to do. Protect your peace. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure to like and subscribe so you're kept up to date with my future videos. I do have a lot of awesome stuff in my library, including a 2025 overview for all 12 zodiac signs. If you haven't seen it yet, definitely go check it out. It's going to give you a sneak peek of what's to come beyond March. And yeah, thanks for being here. Good luck, you guys. Mwah! I'll see you next time. Leo Sun and Leo Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. There's a lot going on, but you know what? Like, there's a lot of zodiac signs that are really going to be struggling with Aries season, but let me tell you, you're not one of them. And that's because as all these planets start moving into Aries, and by the third week of March, we start Aries season. By the end of March, Neptune moves into Aries. Aries, Aries, Aries. Aries is a fire sign. Leo is a fire sign. And so even though this planetary party in the sign of the warrior, yes, in general, it's going to be intense. It's going to be overwhelming. It's going to be a lot. But because elementally, it's your vibe, it's your energy, it's your fire, it is going to be positive. It's going to be productive. It's going to be uplifting and inspiring for your zodiac sign and for Sagittarius as well. So let's get in. As we're wrapping up Pisces season, you know, we just had a new moon in Pisces a few days ago. It's all activating your 8th house. Now, Pisces season is overwhelming for you guys because the 8th house is it's Scorpio energy. 8th house is these really deep questions about life, the universe, and everything, and questions about karma, questions about self-worth, questions about money and debt, and this delicate line that you're treading right now, where sometimes when we are overwhelmed with third dimensional realities like money and debt, it can really do a number on our self-confidence. Because in this day and age, when status is indicated by what you wear, what you drive, all these things, you know, and Leos are especially tuned in to outer appearances. When we don't have money, when we don't have status, when we don't have these ways of adorning ourselves and decorating ourselves, for a Leo in particular, Leo sun or Leo rising, it can lead to depression. It can lead to insecurity and questions around self-worth, because what you're looking for is a way of reassuring yourself that you matter. And it's not necessarily a thought that you would have if you didn't live in this superficial society. If you lived in a different culture where someone's value was not deeply intertwined with how much money you make, you'd be the happiest person on the planet, right? So before you diagnose yourself with depression, make sure in fact you are not surrounded by assholes, and make sure you're not in fact assigning your personal value as this amazing human being to some sort of indiscriminate monetary system that is dominated by oligarchs and billionaires. Like, what does that matter, right? Anyway, deep thoughts for you today. The reason I bring this up is because as Pisces season wraps up, you may be experiencing some very, very deep emotions, deep thoughts, and very deep, profound questions. And so before you let yourself spin, consider, why are you asking yourself these things, right? And if you lived in a different era, if you lived in a different culture, would you even be asking yourself these things? Your inherent worth is not defined by money. It's not. And as a Leo or a Leo rising, your place in this world is going to be largely defined by the warmth that you share with other people. That's your strength. The charisma, the electricity that is part of your incredible bright and shiny soul, right? These things are not defined by money. No money in the world could buy your charisma, ever, right? That's priceless. So before you try and figure out how to bottle and sell your charisma, think about, how do you define your worth, right? Stay away from money. Stay away from status when it comes to questions about your self-worth. What you're really going to be wanting to focus on is the energetic exchanges that you have with people. Because people won't necessarily remember what you did or what you said, but they will always remember how you made them feel. Lean into that, right? How do you make yourself feel? And how do you make the people in your lives feel? That's the money. That's the true worth, right? And so, yeah, as we wrap up Pisces season and we're starting to move into this planetary party where Venus is already in Aries, Mercury is moving into Aries, and by the third week, the sun is going to be moving into Aries. So it's a bit of a crossover between this Pisces energy, which is full of deep thoughts and deep questions for you guys. And then as we start to move into Aries season, you guys are going to be like, oh, I feel so much better. I can't believe I was so bummed out or depressed about that. I feel like $1,000,000 now. So yeah, Aries season is definitely going to rock your socks. And it's also going to be activating your 9th house of possibilities. So as we start to move into Aries season, you're going to be feeling more hopeful, more optimistic. You might even get restless feet where you want to travel, you want to check out some new scenery, maybe you want to talk to some new people or experience some new things. So yeah, get ready for the fog to lift. Get ready for any clouds of depression that have been lingering for far too long. Get ready for those to lift as well. A huge part of what's going to make you feel better is to feel as though you are in motion. So if you yourself have started to become stagnant over the winter months, this is going to be a great opportunity to get a little bit more physically active, just whatever's within your physical capabilities. Or if you don't necessarily have the ability to be physically active, to be mentally active will be just as good. To learn some new things. Like instead of reading the news, if it's really overwhelming, go study up on some new subject that feels inspiring to you, right? Listen to a podcast, go watch some sort of inspirational or educational video. Those are going to be the things that really fill your cup over the next little bit and actually for the next few months to come, because this Aries energy is going to expand far outside of Aries season and really follow us through the year. So in just 2 weeks, on March 13th, March 14th, March 13th, that overnight period, we're going to have a full moon in Virgo. It is going to be a lunar eclipse. Now, the thing is, it's going to activate your 2nd house. Here's where we come back to the themes of money and self-worth. Every full moon, especially an eclipse, is a time of peak energy, but that peak energy leads to a conclusion or closure. This peak is like the beginning of the end. So, and every full moon is like that, but eclipses even more so. This full moon in Virgo, this lunar eclipse in Virgo happening March 13th, March 14th is going to activate your 2nd house, the 2nd house of values. And so there's going to be some sort of massive shift for you around that time, around values, but also what you have as far as possessions. So Virgo encourages us to be healthy, and here's how it could play out. You could come to the realization that it is unhealthy to place your value on money. And so you may come to a peak or a conclusion or a realization where you're like, wow, money doesn't translate into how valuable of a human being I am, whatever. Or it could play out in the way that something you value or something that you possess as far as the things and stuff could be taken or released or removed or remove itself from your life, leading you to that realization that things and stuff don't make you a valuable person. So it could be tricky. There could be financial loss. There could be some sort of a financial hit. If you do not have savings or backup in case of a financial loss or hit, this could hit you like a ton of bricks. It could be a big deal. And I'm not saying every Leo or a Leo rising is going to experience a financial hit, but there is going to be a peak realization around your associations with values, self-worth, and money and things. And so it could play out differently for each person, but I just want you to be aware. Don't spend any money that you don't have to over the next 2 weeks, because if you end up having a financial hit on or around the 13th of March, you're going to be glad that the money is there to deal with it. But it doesn't have to come through that way. For some people, it's just going to be a realization, and that's it. So just be prepared. I want to put it out there, okay? Okay. And yeah, also the other part is don't engage in retail therapy. Spending money is not going to make you feel better about who you are. It's not. It's going to have the opposite effect right now. So as much as you can, dig deep, go for those energetic connections, go for those fulfilling connections and conversations, and focus on that to fill your cup, not things and stuff. Okay. I went a little bit over with you guys, but with the 8th and 2nd houses being activated, I really wanted to give you a heads up about the money situation. Don't screw around with money over the next couple of weeks. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure to like and subscribe so that you're kept up to date with all my videos. And I will see you guys in 2 weeks for another update. Okay. Mwah. Take care out there. Bye. Okay, welcome back. Let's just get all set up. Virgo Sun and Virgo Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. This month is going to be especially significant for you guys. Double-ended thing. So, number one, we're stepping into an 18-month eclipse cycle. It kind of already started last September. So, one of the things that you might notice is that whatever's happening for you right now has some sort of funny parallels to September of last year, specifically September 17th, on or around there. Because what happened September 17th of 2024 was we had our first eclipse on the Pisces Virgo axis. And there's been overlap. We had that eclipse, but then shortly after we had one on the Aries Libra. So it's been this kind of crossover, but that was the beginning of this eclipse cycle. And the full moon lunar eclipse that we're having on March 13th, so just 2 weeks away, is going to be activating the exact same spot that was activated last September. So for some people, it is a sense of things wrapping up and achieving closure or completion, because both times it was a full moon lunar eclipse, and full moons are always going to be a time of something kind of coming to a peak or coming to a head, but it leads to completion, it leads to closure. It's that realization of, oh, this is done, or I'm done. For some people, especially because when we're looking at Pisces Virgo from the perspective of a Pisces or a Virgo, there's this balance between identity and partnerships. So for some of you guys, you might be coming to the realization that your identity has changed so much, or how you see yourself, like the root of who you are is evolving so much that as a result, your relationships are too. You know, like some people are going to stay in our lives for a long time, but people are either coming into our lives for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. Those lifetime people, they're few and far between. There aren't many of those, right? And every stage of evolution and growth that we go through in our human experience is also going to come with it evolution and growth within our personal and professional relationships. Just a matter of fact, right? We're not going to be besties with the same person that we were besties in kindergarten, you know? So what's happening, especially because 7th and 1st houses, like big deal, but also 8th house, it's about energetic exchanges, right? And a lot of you guys could honestly be friends with anybody. You could strike up a conversation with literally anybody. But who you feel safe with, it's a whole nother story. Most people that know you only know the surface you, because you're always helping, but not necessarily asking for help. You're always giving advice, but you're not necessarily asking for advice. So there's a lot of people in your life that don't even actually know you. They think they do, but they don't, right? And that gets old. It gets old always being the one called for help called for advice. And then you're like, why is nobody helping me or offering me advice? Newsflash, it's because you don't ask for it. So there's a lot of different things happening, and the new moon in Pisces that we just had a couple of days ago activated your 7th house of partnerships, bringing to mind themes of selflessness, themes of service to others, themes of compassion and wisdom and grace within the context of your one-on-one relationships, personal and professional. So the new moon that we had just a few days ago may have brought your attention to some sort of repeating pattern in your life when it comes to how nourishing are those close relationships. You may be thinking back to last September. Maybe there's a continuing refresh happening in your life. Maybe some sort of process of reevaluating your relationships has been in the works since September of last year. Maybe you've been hermiting and hanging out with absolutely no one since September of last year. There's going to be a lot of parallels, however it looks for you, right? So the big thing is this overwinter period has given you a lot to think about. And now that we're stepping into spring, we're getting very, very close to spring, just 3 weeks away. A new you is emerging, and that new you gives substantially less forks than you used to. Part of becoming mentally, emotionally, and spiritually healthy when you have a tendency to overserve others, part of becoming healthy is learning to give less forks. And I'm just censoring myself because I want to make sure my video doesn't get censored. So when we learn to give less, it's not selfish. It is not horrible or hurtful. It is an act of self-preservation. It's an act of wisdom. And so part of your experience right now might be reassessing how much you give and reassessing how safe, how comfortable, how nourishing your relationships are. So there's this new awareness, a new sense of what's important to you, and new elevated ideals that you're very excited to start actualizing in your life instead of having them just be conceptual. So you're kind of coming out of your cave, you're coming out of your little rut right now. And as we start to kind of tiptoe into Aries season, you know, Venus is already in Aries. Mercury, your planetary ruler, is about to move into Aries, and you may find that you have no filter. You may find that the things in the past that you would tiptoe around or be really careful about, they just come out of your mouth. And you might surprise yourself. You might shock yourself or other people. You might even get into a little bit of trouble. But afterwards, you're going to be like, well, actually, that kind of needed to be said. Don't beat yourself up for spitting something out with no filter, but learn from it. Do a little debriefing with yourself where you're like, okay, yeah, that needed to be said, but I could have done it differently. I could have approached it differently. I could have created a better time or whatever it is. So learn from whatever happens, but don't shut down and don't go backwards, because you can't keep being the same person that you were. You've already burned yourself out. Now it's time to step into your ideals, to actualize your ideals. And at first, you're going to feel a little bit clumsy and a little bit weird, but I promise you it's for your highest good. And it is going to positively affect your relationships for you to be more authentic in every possible way. So keep working to be the most authentic version of yourself. And March 13th, March 14th, that overnight period between the 2 days, is a full moon lunar eclipse in your sign. Now, as I was saying, every full moon leads to some sort of peak or closure, but it brings with it awakenings. It brings with it realizations. And this one in particular, because it's activating your zodiac sign, is going to be giving you an opportunity to feel reborn, giving you an opportunity to step into this new identity, this new evolved version of you with more authenticity, more courage, and more energy all around, really. Because hiding who you are or limiting yourself or holding back is honestly exhausting, because you're always having to work. Even in your personal relationships, you're working. So this new evolution of who you are and this new evolution of the relationships that you have is an opportunity for you to work less, for you to be more authentic, more relaxed, more true to yourself. And funny stuff, it's actually going to improve all your relationships, because people are going to have a better sense of, I know who you are, and it's going to lead to mutual comfort, mutual authenticity, and most importantly, mutual trust. So be brave, get ready for a couple of no filter moments if they haven't already started. And yeah, just learn as you stumble through this new way of being yourself. It's good for you. Don't go backwards, okay? So yeah, thank you so much for being here. Make sure to like and subscribe so you're kept up to date with all my videos. I do have amazing stuff in my library, including psychic development and horoscopes for 2025. So go check those out if you haven't already. Mwah! I'll see you next time. Libra Sun and Libra Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. We are stepping into some really, really potently powerful times here, woo, to say the least. And one of the ways that you are going to be deeply affected by Aries season as it starts to get started is noticing that your relationships are evolving in a huge way. Now, before we get into that, we are still in Pisces season. We're still very much so in Pisces season. In fact, it kind of already just started. But Aries is so quickly like taking up all the attention because it's so much more like in your face. But that's why I want to make an effort to kind of discuss how Pisces season is affecting you first. We just had a new moon in Pisces a couple of days ago. It activated your 6th house of health, habits, daily routines, and work. And so Pisces season, this time every year, is going to be bringing your attention to your habits, your day job, what it is that you tend to kind of repeat on a daily basis. And the way that we as humans become propelled into change is by becoming sick of ourselves, or sick of routine, or just tired of the monotony. So if that is where you're at right now, sick of the routine, sick of yourself, tired of the monotony, you're right on track. That's exactly what's supposed to be happening for you. So try not to get too lost in that like feeling of just wanting to crawl out of your skin, because what's happening is it's a lot like a snake shedding its skin. Things become itchy and uncomfortable, and we kind of rub and roll our ways out of it, and boom, all of a sudden we're reborn. It's a process. It's not overnight, but that's what's happening for you guys, is you are going through a period of rebirth. The idea is for you to come back to a much more healthy and sustainable way of living your life. But the only way to get there is to first notice the things that you don't like. Noticing the things that you want to change, noticing the things that are irritating you about yourself or other people or whatever it is. So what's important is to keep momentum going. Even if you hit one of those walls where you start to feel really irritated and annoyed, trust that that wall or that experience is giving you really, really useful information. So if you can learn from what is being brought to your attention, then through contrast, you can find clarity. It is only through contrast that we find clarity. It's only by tasting something and going, ugh, that we discover, hey, I don't like that. Cool, that's useful information, right? We don't have to keep going back to that yucky thing that we don't like. We can learn from it and be like, oh, I don't really want to eat that anymore. Okay, moving on, right? And it's so easy when it comes to food. Why is it so hard when it comes to people? Deep thoughts, right? So as we wrap up Pisces season for you guys, there is going to be a big focus on what it is you do every day, and making any necessary adjustments. It's not about huge sweeping changes. Well, not for most people, but for some of you it could be. The idea is making small, palatable changes that you can implement, because if we try to go too big too fast, it's very New Year's resolution-ish, and we tend to kind of fall backwards. We need to set up small, manageable steps for ourselves to ensure success, right? So try to just start off small, make some little moderate changes, work up to the bigger ones. But that's the idea. That's exactly where you're supposed to be right now. And then as we move into Venus is already in Aries, Mercury is moving into Aries in the next little bit. And by March 21st, the sun moves into Aries. So there's a lot of Aries energy. Aries is the opposite of Libra. So all this Aries energy is going to be activating your 7th house of one-on-one partnerships. And so this growing sense of irritation is going to start extending into your awareness of your relationships. Within the context of a relationship, if one individual decides that they want to start making healthy changes, I'm going to use smoking as an example, right? Let's say one person within a partnership or a relationship decides, hey, I want to quit smoking. That's the healthy thing to do. I need to make this change. Well, what do you do if your partner still smokes? And here you are trying to quit, and here you are trying to make healthy changes. And every single time you hug them, you touch them, you kiss them, every single time you come home, it smells like smoke. It's going to trigger you. It's going to irritate you, and it's going to quite possibly sabotage your success. So you may find, and I was just using that as a metaphor, as an example, you may find that in your personal efforts to be a healthier person, to be mindful about your habits, or whatever the case may be, you may find that despite all the work that you've been doing through Pisces season, as we move into Aries season, you may find that other people are the obstacle. Or sometimes we incorrectly assign responsibility to other people. Like, for example, I was doing great not smoking, but then that person pissed me off and now I want a cigarette. Come back to, I'm triggered, I am bothered. How can I choose a different way of dealing with this mental health situation so that I can stay aligned with my healthy ideals, right? We can't blame things on other people. And Pisces season is full of self-sabotage disguised as interference. The fact of the matter is, we ourselves are solely responsible for our choices, right? Can't make any beans about it. So that's kind of the long and the short of the conflict, the situation that you're in right now. You're working for yourself. In the next couple of weeks, you may feel triggered by or influenced by the people in your life, but everything is going to come back down to you and your choices. There's no way around it. And then March 13th, the night of March 13th, leading into the early hours of March 14th, we have a full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo. So again, hammering home how important it is to make healthy choices, how important it is for you to do these things with or without help, support, or validation. You're doing them for you. And that's what's really important. And because the full moon lunar eclipse is going to be activating your 12th house, you may find it is your subconscious processes, it is the ages old programming that you're up against, and more importantly, it's self-sabotage that you're really grappling with these days. So I hope that helps. I hope that is empowering, uplifting, and enlightening. I'm going to tell it to you straight, but the idea is I am handing you the tools to be able to do whatever you need to do to live your best life. So I genuinely hope that that helped. Thank you for being here. Make sure to like and subscribe so you're kept up to date with all my videos moving forwards. I'm going to have some really good ones coming out. I will see you in 2 weeks after the eclipse. Good luck out there. Mwah. Bye. Scorpio Sun and Scorpio Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. You guys have been cruising through Pisces season because Pisces is a water sign and you're a water sign. So whether you're a Scorpio Sun or a Scorpio Rising, you're definitely vibing right now. Pisces season for you guys this time every year is activating your 5th house. And in the chart, in the astrology chart, in your birth chart, A fifth house is like the happiest place to be. It's children, it's joy, it's pleasure, it's romance, it's connection, it's creativity. It's creativity. And everything that you do that makes you happy, everything that puts a little pep in your step, everything that feels fun and exciting, is really kind of the highlight of Pisces season. If you are artistic, this is a time of year every year where you're going to be focusing on creativity and wanting to have fun with your creativity. And basically, this is a time of year where your thoughts, your attention, your choices are all going to be circling around the question of, is it fun? Does it bring me joy, right? The ultimate question. So this is really a positive and productive time for you guys, breaking through creative or writer's blocks, really living your best life. And not only that, but kind of finding little ways to actualize your ideals, to integrate your hopes and dreams into your everyday reality. That's the vibe for you guys right now. But in traditional astrology, Scorpio and Aries both share the planetary ruler, Mars. And so you guys are always going to be connected to Aries in that way because of sharing a ruling planet. Now, Venus is already in Aries. Mercury is about to go in Aries. March 21st, the sun moves into Aries. March 30th, Neptune moves into Aries. And so you may feel drawn in or sucked in to drama or to arguments or conflict as we start to get into March. When Aries season, or when any planet goes into Aries, that is activating your sixth house of duty and responsibility, service to others, being healthy, being predictable, being dependable. It's your day job, it's your habits, it's your routines, it's the nitty-gritty details of reality and life that isn't exactly where you want to be right now. You like this pleasure, party, creativity place that Pisces offers. And so as you know, we start to have this big planetary shift into Aries, you may feel unwilling to get into it. You may feel a great deal of resistance to the energy or to what life is asking from you. And so it's going to be kind of this opportunity for you to not only recognize life is going to be full of contrast. There's going to be good stuff and not good stuff. There's going to be fun stuff and then there's going to be annoying stuff. And it's not like we can ever completely live in that super fun, happy time bubble all the time. We do have to come back to reality. It's just a fact of life, right? And so one of the biggest things for you guys is just going to be noticing that internal compass, noticing when you start to experience the most amount of resistance. And then as you approach these places of resistance, asking yourself, is this my intuition resisting? Or is this my inner child resisting because I don't really want to be responsible, or I don't want to participate in a toxic society, or there's a lot of different ways to look at it, but the biggest thing for you guys is noticing when resistance comes up. And then, well, that was weird. My video just cut out. Okay. The biggest thing for you guys over the next couple of weeks is noticing when that resistance comes up and then learning to tell the difference between the resistance that's coming from your intuition and the resistance that's coming from not wanting to lose magic in exchange for embodying duty and responsibility. And one of the biggest things that we as human beings struggle with is black and white thinking, feeling like it has to always be one or the other. And it's going to be a growth opportunity for you guys, but for everybody, to integrate the balance between dreams and reality, the balance between fun and responsibility, right? Life exists in the middle. Life exists as a balance of both, right? So that's the biggest thing. And then the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo, March 13th, March 14th, in that overnight period, is activating your 11th house. This is cool because the 11th house is finding that meaning, finding that connection, finding those nourishing relationships or other like-minded people out there in the world. And so in any way that you feel alone, the full moon lunar eclipse happening is actually going to open up connections to the outside world, to your community, maybe to a wider group of friends or creative or professional connections. The full moon lunar eclipse is going to help you make peace with the little details, the little ways in which you experience contrast, and finally kind of start to see the bigger picture. See how everything's coming together. See how other people like you are living their best lives or finding meaningful opportunities to make a difference out there in the world. So the very unique and particular experience you have about kind of feeling pulled into two different directions is going to kind of congeal on or around March 13th as you see examples in the world of how to pull it all together, how to find that balance, how to find that like Goldilocks zone. So yeah, thank you so much for being here. I really hope that that helped. Make sure to like and subscribe so you're kept up to date with all my videos. And I'll see you guys in 2 weeks, just after the full moon. Mwah! Bye. Okay, well, hopefully my phone behaves. I don't know what that was there. Sagittarius Sun and Sagittarius Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. There's a lot going on, and as we wrap up Pisces season for you guys is always going to be a dip in energy. And that is because as a Sagittarius or a Sagittarius Rising, Pisces season is the time of year where the sun is moving through the very bottom of your chart. So an astrological chart is a circle. And when the sun moves through the bottom, it's kind of like the lowest energy, the lowest inspiration, the lowest, energy level, or, you guys typically shine bright. Sagittarius rules the 9th house, which is kind of the top of the chart. So anytime the sun is at the bottom of the chart, you may feel personally or professionally like you aren't feeling yourself. And it may come at a time where you also want to stay home more. You want to be less social. You want to spend time with your family or your pets or whatever it is. And so as we wrap up Pisces season, it is going to be the beginning of the return of your energy, the return of your inspiration. So right now we're definitely moving through the lowest point of your year. And you may find that there are parallels to like every year in February or the beginning of March, you kind of feel at your lowest, whatever it may be. Once you start to notice a pattern, you won't feel so bad about experiencing it. You'll be like, oh, it's Pisces season. I feel like this every year. No worries, it'll pass, right? But it is a great opportunity for you to recharge your batteries, for you to clean house, literally or metaphorically, and kind of come back to what really fills your cup. What really provides the highest level of nourishment in your life. And so as we wrap up Pisces season, there is a focus on your emotional health. There's a huge focus on making sure that energetically, emotionally, physically, mentally, in every possible way, that you have a solid foundation from which you can grow and thrive. Your basic needs are going to be really, really at the forefront of your mind right now. Whether or not you have enough money for bills and food, whether or not you have a safe and warm home that is a sanctuary away from the crazy world, whether or not you have nourishing, emotionally fulfilling connections in your life, right? These basic human needs are going to be at the forefront of your mind right now. But this time of deep assessment and kind of cocooning is only going to last for a couple more weeks. And then now we've got a pretty intense planetary party happening right now. Venus is already in Aries. Mercury is about to move into Aries. The Sun moves into Aries March 21st. Neptune moves into Aries March 30th. Aries, Aries, Aries. You may feel out of place during Pisces season because you are a fire sign. Pisces season is water. Water puts out fire. The elemental influence on you guys in particular and any other fire sign out there is going to feel as though you are being subdued, or something is putting out your spark, to use a metaphor, right? So when we start to get these planets tiptoeing into Aries, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, there's my mojo is coming back, or like, I'm starting to feel good again, right? So just give it a little bit of time. You'll come back to feeling like your old self. Aries season activates your 5th house. That's one of the best parts of anybody's zodiac chart, because the 5th house is joy. It's the happiness that we cultivate. It's children, it's laughter, it's creativity, it's connection, it's pleasure, it's romance. So yeah, when we move into Aries season, expect to feel way better. Expect to feel fired up and inspired and stoked to be social, stoked to seek out company or pleasure or whatever the case may be. Yeah, we have a full moon lunar eclipse coming up the night of March 13th into the morning of March 14th. The full moon lunar eclipse is going to be in the zodiac sign Virgo. Not entirely your jam, but you're not going to be bothered by it. Actually, I take that back. 10th house represents challenges. Yeah, Sagittarius is 90 degrees away from Virgo. So yeah, you will feel challenged, but in a way that helps you take practical steps towards living your best life. Virgo is all about details. And so any full moon at all, but especially a full moon lunar eclipse, is going to be a time where things are kind of brought to a head, brought to a peak, but it leads to a conclusion. It leads to awakening or awareness. It leads to something ending. And the full moon lunar eclipse happening in Virgo in just a couple of weeks is going to bring to your attention what sort of healthy changes need to be made in your life in order for you to take actual, real, practical steps towards the goals that you have for the future. Now, Sagittarius, whether you're a sun or a rising, Sagittarius is represented by the archer, right? And so a big part of the energy of your zodiac sign is just kind of shoot for the stars, right? Shoot for the stars, and even if you don't end up exactly where you are, whatever, you ended up close. You know, it's the adventure that's fun. It's the imagination and inspiration that's fun. Whereas Virgo is like, yeah, how are you going to get there? What's your plan? And so the Virgo full moon might make you feel like you're kind of on the spot. In fact, something in your life might actually put you on the spot. It could be a boss or a partner or a family member that goes, really? What's your plan? And even though their behavior or their reaction might make you feel put on the spot, it might make you question the validity of your dreams. Think about it more as universe offering you a business coach. The idea is not to harsh you out. The idea is not to make you give up on your dreams. The idea is to say, I love your ideas. Let's figure out a way for you to make that happen, right? Because otherwise it's just a pipe dream. And so in order for you to actualize your highest hopes and ideals, there is going to be a buildup over the next couple of weeks of realizing how important your dreams are and having either people or circumstances kind of nudge you in the direction of creating some sort of a practical plan to get there. And so, yeah, it might feel like stretching out of your comfort zone, but in the end, if you follow the steps, if you put in that effort, you're going to be so freaking glad that you did. So I hope that helps. I hope you guys have an amazing and magical full moon eclipse. Thank you for being here. Make sure to like and subscribe so you're kept up to date with all my future videos, and I will see you in the next one. Mwah. Bye. Capricorn Sun and Capricorn Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. There's definitely a lot to talk about, but because the upcoming full moon lunar eclipse is happening in an earth sign, just like yourself, you guys are going to come out great. You're not going to be affected as much as some other zodiac signs out there. So let's get in. We are currently wrapping up Pisces season. Pisces season this time every year is activating your third house. Now, the third house is associated with Gemini. It's conversations, it's connections, personal or professional. It's the VIP people in your life. It might be neighbors or siblings, but basically the people that you see in your neighborhood, the people that you interact with, the people that you're going to call up if something's going on, right? And so during Pisces season, you're going to go through every year, you're going to go through a period of being chatty, wanting to make connections, but also wanting to make plans for the future. What's going to shift is that as we start to move into Aries season, and Venus is already in Aries, Mercury is about to go into Aries. We're moving into a lot of planets moving into Aries over the next few weeks, few months. And what that means is that whatever is easy for you now is going to feel extremely challenging over the next little bit. And that's because Aries season for you guys, anytime any planet moves through Aries, for a Capricorn, from a Capricorn's perspective, that's the very bottom of your chart. And it is a 90-degree angle to all that you know and all that you already understand. So there's a big push to stretch outside of your comfort zone. But the idea is seeking real nourishment. Now, as a Capricorn Sun or a Capricorn Rising, you are often focused on external nourishment. Whether you are a workaholic, whether you are obsessed or focused on goals, accomplishments, career, all these ways in which you work your butt off out there in the world. You guys are totally known for working your butts off. But what you're going to come into is a realization that, for example, no amount of money in the world makes up for feeling lonely. No amount of hours or career success or any of that makes up for coming home to an empty house and, feeling emotionally empty or emotionally unfulfilled. And I'm only using examples. I'm not saying that you have to have somebody home. I'm not saying that you have to have any of these things in your life. But what's happening is this year is dominated by Aries energy. And for you guys, that being the bottom of your chart, what that means is that the biggest focus, the answer to your problems, the key to any puzzles that you're trying to solve is going to be, do you feel fulfilled? It's not about the tickets that you have, the certifications, it's not about the career, the success. Everything is going to come down to, do you feel fulfilled? Do you feel nourished? And so as a result, depending on how fulfilled or how nourished you feel in your life, personally or professionally, that is the foundation from which you are going to be perceiving everything else. So if you start to feel overwhelmed, if you start to realize that you are feeling unsatisfied, if you're starting to question your direction in life, if you're starting to question everything, the key, the center core issue underlying every single thing that's coming up for you is the question of, do you feel fulfilled? And so if you can just start there, you're going to save yourself heaps of heartache, confusion, and swimming. So Pisces season is an opportunity to start talking about some of these things that are on your mind. It's a great opportunity within safe company to have some casual conversations as you start to kind of touch on these things that are important. And then over the next couple weeks, couple months, it is going to be unavoidable how important certain things are in your life. And then we have a full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo on March 13th. It's the night of the 13th leading into the wee hours of the morning on the 14th. So depending on your time zone, right? But the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo is going to activate your ninth house. And the ninth house is associated with possibilities. So if you feel unfulfilled, if you feel like something's missing, what's going to happen on or around March 13th is you're going to think, maybe I do know what it is. Maybe I need to go get it. But beware of the tendency to continue seeking fulfillment outside of yourself. You know, the ninth house activation could possibly confuse you into the grass is greener kind of mentality, right? Oh, I don't have it here. I must need to leave to go find it. No, everything that you're looking for is in here. No matter where you go, there you are. The common denominator, the common factor in all these situations is you. And whatever's happening inside of your heart, inside of your emotional center. And if you do not have emotional health, you do not have a foundation from which you will ever grow and thrive, right? Every garden depends on the dirt that it's grown in. And same for us. We are just complicated houseplants. So you may feel as though there's a lot of big questions, but really, if you can simplify things to the core issues that are happening for you, you'll see it's all about whether or not you feel fulfilled, whether or not you feel nourished, whether or not you feel healthy, happy, and safe. That's it. Yeah. So the full moon in Virgo, the full moon lunar eclipse in just a couple weeks is definitely going to bring realizations. It's going to bring awakenings. It's going to bring possibilities, realizations, all that stuff. But just be mindful of the tendency to run instead of staying and facing it, right? Deep questions. Anyway, I really hope that helped you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure to like and subscribe so you're kept up to date with all my future videos, and I will see you guys in 2 weeks just after the eclipse. Mwah! Bye. Aquarius sun and Aquarius rising. Welcome to your horoscopes. We are in the middle of Pisces season. Pisces season just wrapped up. And for you guys, that's your second house. You know, during Aquarius season, there's this huge focus on who you are and how you see yourself and how you think the world sees you and all these things, right? But in Pisces season, which honestly just got started, what's being activated in your chart is the second house. A second house is all that we see and touch. It is what we value, and it's what we manifest from those values. Have you ever noticed how the people that have like lots of things and stuff, it's because they placed a really high value on having things and stuff. Whereas people that place a high value on being happy, that is what they manifest, right? But we often spend a lot of time in our lives chasing our tails and seeking things only to realize that that didn't really do it for us, right? There is no failure in that journey. It is a journey of self-discovery, and we don't know that we don't like something until we try it. So if you're kind of in this in-between place of wanting the insides in your life to align with the outsides in your life and feeling like maybe there's a discrepancy, give it time. Give yourself patience, because you have just completed a full cycle around the zodiac, and you're only in the very beginning of a new year for yourself. So you may feel like a 2-year-old. You may feel like life for you right now is full of black and white, full of contrast. I like this and I don't like this, or whatever the case may be. But trust that as you kind of stumble your way through, it will become more clear over time. Allow yourself to fine-tune that inner compass. Allow yourself to maybe channel your inner 2-year-old. Be vigilant with your boundaries. Be clear with your expectations. And do what feels good, right? As much as you can within reason. So Pisces season is helping you materialize all the new stuff that you're embodying and to manifest all that has come to fruition in your mind, in your heart, in your soul, in your spirit. You got to give it time to come out into your reality. That's the time right now. That's what's happening for you right now. And as we move into Aries season, that's when we start to move into your third house, which is feeling as though things are finally congealing like a triangle, 3D. And so if things feel kind of wonky right now, just trust the process, keep going, and keep fine-tuning your inner compass, and then you're going to end up where you want to be. So Venus is in Aries, Mercury is moving into Aries. They're both about to go retrograde in the next little bit. March is going to be pretty potent. It's going to be really intense and electrifying for some people. And for you, it's going to be incredibly valuable to talk about what you're experiencing, or maybe to write about what you're experiencing. You may feel overwhelmed. In fact, so overwhelmed, you don't even necessarily know what to do about it. As the water bearer, Aquarius is represented by a person holding this jug of water out in front of them. And so that really ties into what I'm tuning into for you guys, which is the need to get it off your chest. When you feel overwhelmed, when it feels like your brain is just flatlining, that means you've hit your limit, and that means you've got to get it off your chest. So creatively, logically, physically, going to the gym, going for a walk, writing, drawing, singing, dancing, whatever it is. If you hit that flat line point where you're just fuzzing out, it means you've hit your limit. You got to get it out. So practice that. Practice getting some things off your chest. Even if you don't necessarily want to talk to another person, just to talk to yourself, right? But yeah, don't underestimate how healing and cathartic it can be to move your physical body, especially when the mind and the heart feel overwhelmed. The body is especially helpful. Physical exercise, dancing, singing, whatever it is, it really makes a world of difference. And also laughter, that just popped into my head. You know, we can only do shadow work for so long. You got to balance it with light work. Put on something funny, cartoons from your childhood, Saturday Night Live, I don't know, just put on something funny that's going to make you laugh, because laughter is definitely the best medicine. And you might need that. You might really need to lighten up these days. Things feel really heavy, right? Now, we have a full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo coming up in just 2 weeks, just under 2 weeks. And the significance of this is pretty wild, because we are stepping into a new eclipse cycle. We're out of the Aries Libra axis. We've learned, we've had everything kind of blow up in our faces. And the phase that we are personally and collectively working through right now is, how do we integrate this new information? How do we acclimate to these new conditions, right? Whatever that looks like for you. So the full moon lunar eclipse happening, it is the night of March 13th, the wee hours of the morning on the 14th. It's that overnight period. It's going to be activating your 8th house. Now, the 8th house has a lot of significance. It's associated with Scorpio. It's life, death, rebirth, it's karma, it's patterns. But more importantly, it's energy. The 8th house is energy. And a full moon in Virgo is going to bring something to a peak or a conclusion, bringing something to a head, with the theme being health. And in the 8th house, you may be thinking about the health of your connections, the health of your personal energy, the health of the energy that you share with other people, and possibly by extension, the health of the money that you share with other people, or the health of your debt situation, whatever the case may be. So in a lot of ways, everything that's happening for you over the next little bit is mostly internal, with questions of how is what's happening for you internally tied into and interrelated with all that's happening outside of you. The knowledge that if you make changes on the inside, they will ripple out to the outside. And if you don't like what's manifesting on the outside, sometimes what we have to do is change what's happening from the inside. We can't look at one without looking at the other. And you might need extra time to yourself to be able to ask and answer all of these really deep existential questions that are happening for you right now. But take the time. It'll be worth it. You'll be really glad you did. So I hope that helped. I hope you enjoyed your horoscopes. Make sure to like and subscribe so you're kept up to date with all my future videos. I have 2025 horoscopes in my library as well if you want to go check those out. Good luck out there, and I will see you next time. Mwah. Bye. Okay. Pisces Sun and Pisces Rising. Welcome to your horoscopes. We are in Pisces season, and as a result, this time every year, you will be experiencing a sense of rebirth. And rebirth is tricky. You know, it can sound lovely. Oh, rebirth, I'm being reborn. Have you ever seen a birth? Yeah. You may feel like it's this wild combination of things falling apart and coming together all at the same time. You may feel as though you are embodying entropy, which is organized chaos within the universe, within natural systems and structures. It's kind of this mind-blowing experience, right? And every year as we come around to Pisces season, you're going to be going through something similar, you know, taking stock of where you've come, formulating a vision for where you want to go, and making peace with where you are right now. And so there's definitely a lot to it. Because there are a lot of planets at the final degrees of Pisces right now, you may also be feeling a sense of urgency. And so it's really important to remember, number one, time does not exist. And number two, our concept of time is largely dictated by our position in the universe. Time is relative. And so if you have a sense of like, I have to hurry up and learn this lesson, or I have to hurry up and make this change or do this thing, just pause for a second and ask yourself, is that sense of time real or is it imagined? Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of things in our lives that you have to do it at this time. But there's also a lot of things in life where that concept of time, that pressure of a deadline, is actually more imagined than real. So just do your best to try and sort out which one's which, right? Now, during this process of personal rebirth, there is grief involved in letting go of who you used to be, and the ways in which you used to live your life, and the ways in which you are realizing those patterns can't continue. There's going to be grief always in what we let go of. And there's also joy, apprehension, excitement, and a little bit of terror around the new beginnings and the ways in which we are stretching outside of our comfort zone and embodying things that used to be conceptual and now they're real and actual, right? It's a mix of terrifying and exciting all at the same time, but you are very prepared. It is time and you are ready. So a huge part of your energy and this time of year is to learn how to go with the flow, to learn how to let go with grace, to set your compass and allow yourself to be guided along the way, to be willing to adjust your course as necessary. As long as you have that lighthouse up ahead that you're aiming for, you'll get there, right? So love yourself through the process for sure. Because once we start to move into Aries season, and you know, Venus is already in Aries, Mercury is about to move into Aries, this whole year is going to be dominated with Aries energy. And Aries is your second house. The second house is tricky because the second house says, oh, do you have proof? So when you come to the table or come to life with this rebirth, this pride in yourself, this wisdom that you have accomplished, and it's hard-won wisdom, right? You come like this soft, ethereal being, and Aries season and second house season goes, oh, proof? Do you have proof? Are you making money? Everything that you love about yourself could so quickly be popped in a moment, like a balloon versus a blade of grass. You know what I mean? Keep that in mind. Keep in mind that your value is unconditional. Your worth as a human being is inherent. whether you make money or not, whether anybody else sees it or not. And if anybody treats you like that, feel free to turn it around. I don't have a clever comeback right now, but I probably will in 5 minutes. Feel free to turn it around, man. Like, who are you to ask? What have you done lately? Whatever it is, right? And not that you're a mean person, but don't let yourself be a doormat. And don't let anyone pop your bubbles of hope. Because that's some shit. That's not okay, right? So just keep in mind, this is an overwhelming time. This is a very heavy time. This is a huge crossroads for humanity. And the vast majority of people out there that are behaving in abrasive ways are doing so because they themselves are in deep conflict. Now, you guys usually excel at approaching with compassion and having patience and understanding why people are acting the way they are. Now, you can understand all you want. It doesn't mean you have to take it. It doesn't mean you have to put up with it. So definitely don't let yourself be a doormat. And maybe that's part of your rebirth, is drawing a line and having boundaries and being like, no, not here, not today, right? Stand up for yourself, protect your peace at all costs, protect your growth, protect your spirit, especially in harsh times, right? Because the world needs you. The world needs you to be soft and loving and compassionate. You just gotta have boundaries too, right? So we've got a full moon lunar eclipse coming up the night of March 13th, moving into the morning of March 14th, depending on your time zone. And this full moon lunar eclipse is happening in Virgo, that's opposite your sign. So it's going to be activating your 7th house of one-on-one partnerships. These could be personal partnerships, like a friend, a bestie, a lover, whatever. It could be a professional partnership, a coworker, a boss, a business partner, whatever it is. But it's represented by the scales. It's that give and take. It's that one-on-one connection in which we ideally have a central point, a central unification in which we have shared goals, shared dreams, a shared vision, a shared investment, whatever it is. This full moon in Virgo may make you question whether or not you are still on the same page as those people. Do you still share a goal? Do you still share values? Do you still share a dream for the future? Because if the conditions have changed, you may want to change your contribution. You may come to the realization that it's not a healthy balance, and that will lead you to reassess. Things cannot continue the way they are. That is across the board right now. And so anything at all where you're recognizing, this isn't working for me anymore, good. Take that information and use that information. Make any necessary changes or adjustments. There's no point in staying loyal if the other person isn't. There's no point in staying invested if you no longer share a common dream or a common goal. If the conditions have changed, allow yourself, give yourself permission to renegotiate the terms of the agreement, right? Or to back out completely if you no longer want to be there. Give yourself permission to let go. Give yourself permission to reassess, and give yourself permission to be a healthy level of selfish. Sometimes you gotta be. We don't want to be selfish all the time, but in certain situations, it's absolutely essential, especially because you can often be so selfless that one of the things that might come up for you around the full moon lunar eclipse is feeling like a doormat, feeling like you're taken advantage of. Not everybody deserves your awesomeness or your softness. So go where you're wanted, go where you're appreciated. Give yourself permission to leave if it is no longer serving your highest good, if it no longer brings you joy, right? Awesome. Well, I really hope that helped. Thank you so much for being here. If you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe so you're kept up to date with all my future videos. And I have so much good stuff that you could be checking out in my YouTube library right now, including horoscopes for 2025, the full year ahead, the full scoop for all 12 zodiac signs. So you should go check that out. Thank you for being here. Good luck out there, and I will see you next time. Mwah. Bye.